allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone who's here tonight, including our honored guest who I haven't seen in 20 years, Mr. Pristolsky.
It's been that long?
Oh, it's been close to it. It's probably been 15 for sure.
God, yes. Wow.
Yeah.
You've been hiding from me.
Not intentionally. Not intentionally. Or vice versa. I could say you've been hiding from me.
Oh, I've been trying to hide, but they keep finding me.
Oh, okay. All right. Now that we've had our Pledge of Allegiance and the meeting is called to order, David will have a roll call of members present, please.
Kathy Waltz.
Yes.
Joan Hook.
Yes.
Tim Kunzel. Jean Jokerst. Joan Tro.
Yes.
Bob Donovan.
Yes.
Connie Steiger-Schwinn. We have a quorum.
Thank you. The next item will be the approval of the agenda for tonight. If you'll look over your paper agenda and anybody has any questions or changes or criticisms or whatever, please raise your hand and we'll get moving. If not, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay.
Second.
And the other Joan seconds it? Okay.
1 and 2.
Okay, thank you. And now the next item is the approval of the minutes from the April meeting.
Take a vote on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right.
I apologize. All in favor of approving the agenda for tonight?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Approval of the minutes of the April meeting, and you all have a copy of that. If not, speak up.
Move approval. Move approval.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the previous minutes. Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you, Bob. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, David, you're on.
I want to introduce into evidence the municipal code book. And then, of course, you all have the staff report and associated documents that I sent to you via email on Thursday. And there are paper copies available to you here at the table. I would entertain a motion to accept
A
the
little
evidence.
bit more, please.
Would you like more?
Yes,
I was
please.
going to give that later, but
Oh, okay.
is that all right?
Okay, yes,
When
that's
the
okay.
new business comes up?
Under new business?
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
perfect. Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the evidence, the introduction of evidence.
thank you. Is there a second?
Yes. Second.
We have a second. Joan, too, is seconding the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And the next item on the agenda.
I have no old business.
That's always a good sign.
It moves things along quicker.
Okay, let's move down to new business, please.
In the new business, we have Henry Pristowski, owner of 125 St. Jude Drive, has submitted a request for a variance from Municipal Code Section 405.150 height and area regulations. The applicant has requested a variance to the setback requirements in order to maintain a carport with no front setback from the front property line. I received an initial complaint on July 19th via handwritten note. I followed up that day with Mr. Pristowski, stated I would double check the setbacks, but would probably have to remove the carport on his property. He came to City Hall that day and filed the variance application that you have in front of you. On August 4th, letters were mailed to all adjoining members, or neighboring members, and Mr. Pristowski, notifying them of the request and of the date and time of this hearing. Notice of the meeting was published in the St. Genevieve Herald on August 11th per municipal ordinance. Since that time, the neighbor at 127 St. Jude stated that she is against the carport. Neighbor at 124 St. Jude stated would be happy if it was cut back to 20 foot. No other neighbors reached out to me. All of the pertinent code and ordinance information, along with the other data, was provided to you in the staff report last Thursday, August 26th. I have since, or actually prior to sending that out, just prior to sending out that staff packet, Mr. Krastowski visited City Hall, and we spoke for some time. He expressed interest in possibly altering his request to allow for 20 foot of the carport to remain, which would require a 13.5-foot variance. That is all that I have.
Okay, just to be real clear on that, can you point that out on the drawings that we have, or the photos we have? What would be 20 feet?
Yes, so
I'm looking at page 7 right now, so it would be something like that.
20 foot would be half. I'm going to go to, probably back up a bit to page 5 of your report. It's this. I know it didn't always print out very well. So this shows the street right-of-way. It shows an outline of the carport, because I don't have an aerial of the carport, though I do show you the street view of the carport. The carport is 40 by 22. It is 6.5 foot approximately over the front property line. It sits approximately 2.5 foot from the front facade of the house, so the eave sticks out quite a bit. The distance from the primary facade to the front property line is 36 foot. Now, when I say the primary facade, I'm not including the porch. The actual primary facade where the carport sits in front, 36 foot to the front property line, 44 foot to the street. So there's about an 8-foot difference between the front property line and the street. So that's the difference, the 6.5 foot. The carport sits approximately 1.5 foot off the street, 18 inches, and then 6.5 foot is over the property line. If you come back 25 foot, which would be the setback, that would leave Mr. Krastowski with, I did not do that math, but it's about a 7-foot carport, so it really would serve no purpose. Does that explain?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank
So
you.
David, this street here, unlike a lot of streets in the city of St. Genevieve, that street actually has a 50-foot right-of-way,
Correct.
where a lot of our streets is just the width of the pavement.
Some of them, not
Some
all
of
of them,
them,
but
right.
most of the subdivisions have a significant street right-of-way.
That's a good point, thank you.
And this white dot on here is actually his property corner.
Correct. The front 2 corners were marked. I took photos of that, and they are approximately 8 foot back from the curb.
So did the one neighbor that objected to it, I mean, they're saying 20 foot or nothing?
One neighbor, I am just telling you what was said. She is against the carport. I think she would prefer it to go away. Another neighbor, 124 St. Jude, stated he'd be happy if it was cut back to 20 foot.
But this type of structure as an accessory structure is legal.
An
under our
accessory
code.
structure is legal, not in the front yard.
If it wasn't in violation of the property, would it still be not legal in the front yard?
That is
We
an
would have to
excellent
give a
question.
variance, right?
I would think of variance because accessory structures, according to the zoning code, are to be in the rear yard. Now, those are buildings, accessory structures. So that's not,
So
a
is
mailbox or something like that.
Right.
Is this considered a permanent structure because it's affixed to the concrete, or?
It is attached to the concrete and to the ground on one side. But it fits within our definition of building and accessory building.
Okay.
Officer Krastowski, why do you want such a giant carport?
You come up to the podium there, Mr. Krastowski.
Yes.
Thank you.
I recently bought a new truck. It is approximately 18 foot long. I have a one-car garage. Both my parents passed away, and I inherited their property. A lot of my father's tools, which are in my garage, because I was debating on whether or not to sell their property over in Illinois. I do not have power to my shed in my backyard. My truck is 18 foot long. I did not want to put tarps over my truck because it would be looking like the ghetto if I did something like that. So I talked to the city administrator, found out everything I would need to put a carport in. I measured my driveway, got the information I would need. Pardon me, I had a stroke in 17. I'm having trouble standing here. I'm using my cane, I just had to set it off to the side here. The measurement of my driveway, the carport sits approximately 3 feet from my garage, not the overhang or the eave, but 3 feet from the garage. The length is approximately 39.8 feet of my carport. And it's roughly just a little bit less than 2 feet from the street. I've lived here, as you said, approximately 20 years.
Yeah, easy.
Easy 20 years. I was a police officer in this town. It's the first I heard about an easement for anything in this town. Now I have, when I was driving, I had to go take care of some business out of the city limits today. And I noticed in several of my neighbors at their end of their driveway, easily within a foot of the street, they have big brick and mortar planters, easily 6 foot by 6 foot planters within about less than a foot of the street. Now, are those considered permanent structures? My carport is not considered a permanent structure. Yes, it's anchored to my driveway to prevent high winds from blowing it down. I talked to the city administrator, like I said. First, he told me there would be no problem with this. Then all of a sudden, he's telling me there's a problem with this.
I think that's probably because it's huge.
Well, when I showed him my plans for it, and the pictures of it, and my receipt, through the manufacturer, all he said was, "It's going to be a big one." I said, "Yes, it's going to be anchored to my driveway." He goes, "Okay." That's when I asked him if I was going to need anything special, permits, restrictions, anything like that. He assured me I was not going to need anything special. Then all of a sudden, Mr. Bova comes to my house and tells me I'm in violation of city code. I called City Hall, I called Mr. Bova, and was told, first I was told one complaint. Then I was told multiple complaints. Then I called back again and was told one complaint. The only person that has been complaining is my neighbor and her daughter. Her daughter doesn't even live there. I just recently found out my neighbor's house is in her daughter and her son's name. Like I said, they do not even live there. My neighbor across the street, who's the fire chief in this town, just flat out doesn't like it. I'm sorry, it's my property. I pay the mortgage on my house, I pay the property taxes, I pay my utilities. Even with my stroke, I do my best to maintain the property. I'm not always out there every week to trim the weeds and cut the grass, but I do my best to maintain it. I don't know what else to do. Like I said, I pay for everything on my property. I don't hire other people to come take care of my property. I don't hire other people to take care of my property for me. Like I said, I recently lost my parents, so I take care of my property here in Missouri and their property over in Illinois. I put this carport up mainly because my truck does not fit in the garage. I got my father's tools in there. I have my own tools in there. I do not have electricity to my shed in the backyard to put the table saw and an air compressor back there. If I could put an air compressor back there, I would have to drive my truck through the grass into my backyard to fill up my tires when I needed air.
That begs a question that came to my mind, if I may.
Yes,
Would you consider putting in a driveway to the side of your house? Not this driveway, another driveway, and putting this big carport on that?
where would it go?
It would go from the middle of the yard, roughly, to the back end of your house.
What's the
That's,
side
that's,
variance?
what I'm asking is,
But in
whose
this
property
ordinance,
then would I have to violate to put that driveway in?
You don't have a side yard
No, not wide enough to put a driveway in
on either side?
on either side.
It's very,
Because either side, I'm sorry,
it's probably the minimum. It's probably 7 to 8 foot right
is,
now.
Okay.
is probably the minimum. Then who would I get to shovel the driveway? Like I said, I've had a stroke in 2017. I'm partially paralyzed on the right side. I was doing fine walking without a cane for a while, but I spent too much time the last couple of days walking. I fell the other day.
Welcome to the club.
Yes, that's why I'm walking with a cane right now. I was recently diagnosed with kidney cancer, so I'm getting ready to go back into the hospital for surgery as soon as my doctor clears me and determines what medication I come off of for the bleeding. Not that it's anybody's business or concern here. But that's another concern of mine, is with all this happening now, I gotta deal with this carport issue. Again, like I said, it's my property. I pay the property taxes, I pay the mortgage, and I take care of everything else on my property.
Except for one thing.
Yes, ma'am.
The ordinances, and I'm just paraphrasing here,
Yes.
don't say you can put a building, if you want to call it a building, all the way to the curb. Can't do that. And that's what you're attempting to do.
Well, see,
So
when
we
I-
have to find an alternative solution for you.
right. See, when I talked to the city manager,
Are we talking about this man right here who's looking at me? Okay,
okay, that's where he and I had a difference of opinion on his memory issues. The first time I came and talked to him, I brought him my plans for it and the receipt that I had, giving the size of it. He looked at it and said, "It's going to be fine." All he said was, "It's going to be a big one." I said, "Yes." It's going to go from approximately 1.5 feet or so from my garage to roughly 2 feet from the street. And he said, "It's going to be a big one." I said, "Is there going to be any problems, any issues, anything I need to be concerned with?" No. Then all of a sudden, when this came up, when my,
well, that would, excuse me, that would be no from him in his world. He doesn't run everything. We're the authority on whether you can do it or not.
right, but let me finish here. I was asking if there's anything that I need to worry about as far as this carport goes. And he says, no. I said, is there any kind of legal paperwork I need or anything like that? And he would tell me no. Then all of a sudden, after I put it up, apparently, for lack of a better term, a nosy neighbor started calling. Then I would get I got one complaint on it, then I got multiple complaints on it, then it went back to one complaint on it. So who do I believe from the same person? Did the city get one complaint on it? Did the city get multiple complaints?
We have the list right here, and you can have a copy of it.
I would like that, please.
Okay.
Then he starts telling me that they're anonymous complaints.
Who he? We'll get back to you in a little bit, Kathy. Go
He
ahead.
started telling me that they're anonymous complaints, that the city doesn't have caller ID, they don't know who's making these complaints. So I'm like, well, 25 years in law enforcement, I can tell you right now, anonymous complaints don't hold up in court. Then he tells me, well, if that's the way you want to take it, I guess we're going to have to go to court. I said, well, if that's the way you want to take it, I guess we will. I just want to know what's going on here.
Okay, and so where we are right now is one step outside the door to the court. That's
Well-
what this meeting is.
With all due respect, ma'am, I'm trying to get this settled. I don't want to go to court. I really don't.
Nobody does, but go ahead.
I want to get this settled. I would like to get the variance. I've lived peacefully in this town for 25
20
years. I've always looked after my neighbors. I've always been, how do I say it, a peacemaker, peacekeeper in the subdivision. The only trouble I have in the subdivision are those UTVs and ATVs
No, don't we all have that?
that race up and down in the street. I've recently spoke with Mr. Bova, I believe it was, about the coyote in my backyard, on my
What?
back porch.
A coyote?
Several of them. I see them from time to time. They come into Mr. Deck's field behind my house.
Yeah, that happens. That
It
happens
happens.
to people who live by cemeteries too and stuff like
Well,
that.
I told them, I said, it is to the point where I opened my door the other night, last week I think it was, to take my dog out. And I always walk her on a leash, bring a flashlight with me to take her out, and there was a coyote on my back deck.
You don't leave food out there. I'm not gonna.
No.
Yeah, okay.
No. And it's to the point where I know it's illegal to fire a firearm in city limits, but if it's down to me and my dog versus a coyote, I'm going to shoot the coyote. And I love animals more than I like people. Believe me.
Several of us do. And
Yes.
just run that thought past the chief who's sitting back there and.
The right to protect your life and property.
Thank you. I
Thank
mean,
you.
and I've said this before, even when I was a police officer, I like animals better than I like people. I mean, I have PTSD when I was in service, and because of something that happened when I was in service. So, you know, I defended my country, spent 25 years defending my community as a law enforcement officer, and now I feel like I don't have a say in the matter. I would like to keep my carport the way it's at. I was unaware of this ordinance saying this, and this, but setback.
Do you want to sit down while we keep talking? Would you be more comfortable?
Yes, please.
Go ahead. Bob, did you want to say something
Yeah,
while he's taking a seat?
Dave, getting back on the more technical side of this, was looking at this one picture, the white dot marks the northeast corner, property corner, approximately 8
What
foot
page
back.
number is that?
I don't know, when I turned mine off, it didn't have page numbers,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's,
They're way
Down the
down
lower
here in the
right
very
corner.
bottom,
yeah, I was talking about the
Kinda
top picture and
small.
stuff.
like 10
Uh,
of 10, maybe?
Got it. Page 10 with the white dot in the upper photo?
Yes.
Okay, keep
Um,
going.
You know, it looks like to me the edge of this carport is several feet off the end of his house. Is that not correct?
I'm not sure.
It's almost 2, I
The
think.
back edge?
No, this, you know, I take it this is his house back here, and this is the edge of the carport. I mean,
Oh, the side of it.
yes, on the side.
Yeah, it's the complete width of the driveway, and the driveway is wider than the
House.
garage. Yes,
Okay, well then this dot is further off the property line yet.
correct.
So, but you're saying that's only about 7 or 8 feet from the edge?
street.
Not
No, I'm looking for a
width-wise.
width dimension to get to his backyard, from the edge of his house.
I did not measure that, but I would, I would suppose that this picture is shrunk, so it doesn't give a very good
To scale, right.
scale.
Right, I was just wondering what that dimension was when you talked about 7 or 8
I
feet.
would say, being there that day, this dimension's probably 4 or 5 feet. But
Right.
back here, from the house to the line, it may be 10 feet, but I would think more like 8 or 9.
And
So
Bob,
it would
If you
be,
look at page 7, this picture, you can tell that the structure's wider than the garage.
right,
because the garage
right, that's what I
is
was
in
referring to. I just, you know, if the option comes up to put a driveway back there, and I'm not sure that's not my decision, but,
But this structure width-wise wouldn't fit probably.
If the driveway was put
There.
in, he'd have to drive all the way to his backyard.
Right, and turn back
then
into
into a
the-
carport,
right.
yes.
right. And then on the view from the east side of the property,
Mm-hmm.
that's the neighbor's driveway and then a strip of grass
Correct.
to the carport and stuff. Do we have any other instances in the city of St. John where there's one of these structures
I mean, are there carports in St. John?
in the front?
Sure.
Giant ones?
In the front, I mean, no, not one of this size and scale.
Right,
Some are probably non-conforming, they've been there for a while.
right,
I can't take you to one right now.
right. I think there is, but,
Most of them are in the rear or along the side where allowed.
right.
Or they were there prior to zoning, something of that nature.
So if the idea is to protect your 18-foot-long truck, why does this, it's 40-foot structure?
I measured my driveway, it's to cover my 4-car driveway. It's 4 cars wide, my driveway, and the full length of my driveway, minus about 4 foot of my driveway. Like I said, the driveway doesn't go fully to the garage and fully to the street. So it pretty much covers almost the entire driveway. But it does cover my, my truck. It's a 4-car driveway. And the garage isn't big enough for my, my truck, with everything I have in my,
No, I understand that, but if the idea was to protect your truck, which obviously I understand, and it's 18 feet, do you have other vehicles?
not right now. I did have other vehicles, and I traded them both in to get this truck.
Okay, so you have one vehicle
Now I do, yes.
that's 18 feet, but you have a carport that goes 40 feet.
Yes. Like I said, at the time, I was unaware of the setback requirement in this city.
So you just built it because you could, that big?
Basically built it to cover his whole driveway.
Well, I know,
That's what it
but,
says.
you know, why, you don't need to, if your idea is to protect your vehicle, you don't need to cover your
Right.
whole driveway.
With your, and I hate to refer to it as a handicap, I mean, do you have a problem making that turn off of the street to get into the carport?
No.
Okay.
So.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so this is, someone used the term illegal at all to have this, any structure there? No matter if it's 20 feet or what it is, it's not, it needs a
Well,
variance.
Another reason that I have such a large carport too is, like I said, I'm partially paralyzed on the right side with the stroke I had in 17, is the snow and ice when it comes in the winter. Granted, it's not every winter it's snow and ice, but when the rain hits, it's easier and less dangerous to go straight off my porch into my truck that way. I don't want to break my neck or my leg or an arm or my back or get a concussion. Not that it's anybody's concern or anybody's business, but I am on blood thinner, and if I were to slip and fall on the ice or wet pavement and bleed to death in my driveway, nobody would find me. I would literally bleed to death.
So 20 feet would accomplish that,
It would give me room to get my truck off the street,
and covered,
and safely off the street, I should say,
and covered off the street.
Covered.
Right, which, okay,
and protect my truck.
And
right,
it's
and
still-
yourself.
And if we moved it back to the 20 feet length, it's still double wide, correct? Like
Yes.
you would still have room for another vehicle underneath it.
Yes, but like I said, I am asking for the variance to get it full length of the driveway, because it's technically a 4-car driveway. So if I have people come over, they could get their vehicle out of the weather and protected by the carport. They can keep it off the street. No offense to the police department. I can count on both hands and all my toes the number of times vehicles, ATVs, UTVs, and cars have been flying up and down the street. I mean, in excess of the speed limit. And I could tell visually when they're going faster than the speed limit, having been a police officer for 25 years.
Can I,
Yes, sir.
again, this is kind of digging a little personal and stuff, but, and please tell me if it is and stuff, but with your health concerns and stuff, you see that deteriorating more to where it may be a van and wheelchair type of thing, or requiring more room to get in and out of your vehicle, or?
I am desperately hoping to avoid that,
Right,
but I can't see my health deteriorating. Like I stated earlier, I have cancer in my left kidney. So whether or not they're gonna have to remove the whole kidney or just a growth inside my kidney, the doctors are unsure at this point. When the surgery is gonna be, they're still unsure, because I have to go through more testing.
right. I was meant more on the mobility side.
Right. And like I stated, I was doing fine for quite a while without my cane. And I felt I was getting stronger, and then I started getting weaker. In the last roughly 2 weeks, I started getting real weak and real dizzy. And then last night I slipped and fell. And my right leg is hurting more. I got no strength in my right leg at all right now. That's why I'm back to using my cane.
And the reason I brought that up is, is to have a 20-foot structure on an 18-foot vehicle doesn't cover much area. I mean, I can see where the objection is to this 40-foot, and I'm just wondering if there's some happy median, in between. But, it doesn't like you store anything under that carport. I mean, is that something you're thinking about in the future, of stacking a bunch of stuff under there, or?
Right now, it's just my garbage cans
Right.
that I have under there. As far as anything that could be affected by the weather or anything like that, I keep that in the garage if I can at all.
Right,
The driveway slopes as it has to for water drainage.
right.
And to keep the snow and ice from accumulating on it, that's another reason I got the carport.
Right. I mean, one thing that I find objectionable, and I have it in my neighborhood, is when people pile a bunch of stuff, in their front yards and around driveways and stuff.
I
It just-
agree with that, but it breeds mice.
And attracts coyotes too.
Exactly.
Right,
But like I
They come to
said,
eat the
This
garbage.
is proposed
behind my house,
structure.
if you know where I live at 125 St. Jude, there's that big field there that belongs to Harry Cat. And that's where I've been hearing and seeing coyote. I can hear them with the air conditioning on and my windows rolled up, they're closed, I should say. I can hear them. And I have had coyotes on my back deck. Yes, Kathy?
A member of this commission who is unable to attend tonight, her backyard backs to the field that starts on St. Mary's Road and runs up that hill to,
Lynn,
what?
Lynn,
Yeah.
or she lives on Circle, maybe, right?
And she gets them, she hears them all the time. I've been at her house, you can hear them. And I'm just grateful I don't live by a cemetery or a field,
I have
Yeah.
critters all over I live off of Creek Road in the city. There's critters all over the place over
Yeah,
there.
Back to
yeah,
them.
everything
Yeah,
from-
we're not, it's a crow flies, we're not too far
Okay.
apart. but-
I had 5 skunks the other day walking
Go ahead,
across
John.
the
I
beach.
believe I think you said that any structure would need to have a variance because it's in the front. Is that correct?
Any building, yes.
And this is a building.
Yes.
This is a building.
So
40
because
foot.
it's in the front, so no matter what, who would do that variance? Who would do that?
This board
We do.
is,
We would do the variance, any variance for this structure in the front of his.
No matter what size it is. If
Right,
it's 25 feet,
Got it, okay.
Okay.
So he needs a variance no matter what.
right.
Question is, do we grant the any variance, in which case the thing has to come completely down, or we can grant the requested variance, which is this whole thing at 40 feet, or we can reduce it. We can grant a variance that's reducing the 40 feet to whatever. Are
Yes.
those the
Would you be
basically three
agreeable to
options?
one of those alternatives?
I personally would like the variance to keep it the whole size of where it's at. However, if that's not feasible, I'm willing to take one to reduce it to the bare minimum, provided it'll protect my entire truck.
But the 6.5 feet can't stay on city property
No.
in any way.
No.
Right.
But like I stated, I've lived here for in excess of 20 years, roughly in excess of 20 years. This is the first I've heard about city variance for that property, for any property, I should say.
Well, I just want to say you're lucky, because it annoys a lot of people all the time, but here we are with it.
Yes,
So,
Okay.
and it's a law, so we have to enforce this law.
it's annoying me too right now, to be
Sure.
honest with you. It's got my blood pressure so high, I'm surprised I haven't been in the hospital with another stroke, to be honest.
Joan, to answer your question, yes, you can decide to give
1, 2, or
no variance.
Right.
Which would mean it needs to
come down.
You can give the full variance, which would need 6.5 foot still removed, but it would be,
Oh, it would still need
32
to,
foot.
It
okay,
would still need the 6.5
or you can
foot.
give any, this board, this body can give anything in between.
okay, so then I think, Dave, you said somebody, he expressed an interest in possibly allowing 20-foot carport to remain, which would require, I see, 13 and a half is,
That's the variance.
that's the 6.5 that,
No, that's
no, I
beyond
mean,
the 6.
that's plus, that's minus, anyway, that ain't, you know, okay, I got it.
Basically, the 6.5
I
to
got it.
13.5 to
Okay,
20 foot.
okay,
Yes,
all right.
Because when I measured it, roughly, the way it was, the measurements were given to me, when I measured it approximately from the middle of the street, which is where it would start, it comes approximately to, right to the tree in my front yard, which leaves me really no coverage for my truck. So that would leave me to pretty much covering my truck with a tarp to protect my truck, keeping it safe from the sun, being a black truck, a black leather interior, and protecting it from the snow and ice in the winter and the rains in the spring and summer. Yes.
I'm looking at pictures that are accessible to you if you want to jump up and grab one. And it's page 7 of our handout, and that is, I'm looking at the tree, I'm looking at the driveway, I'm looking at the corner of the house, and you said
Lower right corner.
20 feet?
Those verticals
be-
in those carports are usually on 4-foot centers.
Essentially
They are very
half.
close to every one of them 4 foot.
4 foot on centers, and what I'm looking
So
at,
that would
8
be
feet off of there would just
24.
about be even with that tree.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Right.
Where are you? So
The
that would
pictures are a
be-
little misleading.
Oh, I
Right.
see, you're at the top, okay. So
I guess there
seven.
could be an angle a little bit variance
You're
there.
talking about the big tree in the
At the
backyard?
top,
Front
No,
yard.
front yard.
Front
I'm
yard.
sorry,
On the
front
side.
yard. It's
The
probably
front yard,
closer to
yeah.
3 back, so 12 foot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It runs roughly to approximately the center of the tree, which
So that would be.
technically, if you want to get down to it,
24.
I would end up having to remove
The
that
thing
tree.
would be 24.
No, that's not
No.
what they're talking about.
No.
They're just talking about the distance the tree is back
right.
in
Yeah.
comparison to the carport.
The distance from the street that the tree is.
are you ready for a motion?
So I know I lost one of the trees in a bad storm
Almost.
several years ago.
You're ready. I'm ready. I think I know where you're going. I think I'm right there with you.
You know, I would hate to see him have to take the whole thing down. I mean, that's not pleasant, and I don't know what led up to the fact of who said what. There's no way to come up with that, but,
If I may interrupt, it cost me roughly almost $10,000 for that whole carport,
right.
and I'm not willing to get rid of the whole carport. Now, if I have to cut it back, I have to cut it back. And I talked to the gentleman who's a go-between for me and the company that installed the carport. We're both still waiting on an estimate to cut it back. But that's why I came here tonight, to see if I can get the variance for it before I start spending any more money to take care of this. Because like I said, I've got to go through surgery and try and take care of that first. Because no offense to anybody here, or to the city ordinances, or to the city of St. Genevieve, my health is more important to me than any laws or ordinances.
Well, while you're in the hospital, trust me, nobody's gonna sneak over there and tear it down.
That may have came out wrong. I don't suspect the city of doing that. It's not the city that I have a fear of doing that. It's neighbors I don't trust.
Well, if they're breaking the law then, and that could be handled at
They
one time. but-
would not care.
Right. Well, yeah, that's.
We
some-
have other ways of dealing with that.
Right,
I know, but no offense to Eric and the police department. I've already had a run-in with the police department and he's aware of this. He said he was going to take care of it, and I trust Eric that he did. Eric and I used to work together. That two of his officers refused to take a complaint on my behalf when I was a victim. And Eric said he was going to take care of it, and I trust him that he did when I was threatened downtown. So, I trust him that he took care of it.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Can we settle this with making your carport 22 feet long and you remove the extra feet and we're done?
As long as you don't actually give me a quote-unquote deadline, it'll take me a little while to come up with the money and find someone to cut that extra off.
the one thing about the more you cut off, you'd have another structure that would be usable.
Yeah, put it around the back, I was thinking.
Or sellable.
You know,
Sorry?
I,
Sellable.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
right. You know, I have a tendency to lean towards maybe a little longer because of your health issues and safety and stuff. I mean,
Are you saying put it on the side, like where the sidewalk's at?
well, no, I'm just saying maybe
Okay.
Leave it where it is. but
28
do
feet.
it.
Clarify,
Oh,
he's
okay.
saying leave it where it is, but longer.
right.
He's not
but
talking
maybe
about moving.
28 feet rather than 20 feet, just so
Okay.
you've got, in the event, that we hope that doesn't happen, that you have to have more room to get in and out of your vehicle and stuff. You don't
Looking
want
at
to.
these pictures, Bob, that's still
Well, it's
almost half the
28,
size
that's
of what's
only
in the
12.
picture. So that
That's reducing, yeah.
would be, I think, acceptable to the city and the neighbors.
Well,
At what feet? What dimension?
yeah.
28. Well,
Hey,
it's 40 feet long and a 28 is only 12 feet, and that's 6'5", so that's only 5 feet back from.
So if we
Not a
take
whole lot.
12 feet off of it, how far off of the property line would it be then?
It would be 5.5 foot off of the front property line.
Right.
Right. I remember years ago, we allowed a variance of an addition to a side of a house of 1 foot. And there was an agreement to buy the additional property, and they did, but, just as an alternate, I mean, that close to the road doesn't bother me. I'd be more worried about, if it's kept nice and organized underneath of there and clean and not end up like a building on 9th Street. And I just think, taking his special circumstances into it,
There has to exist unnecessary hardship or practical difficulties. So that's what will have to exist, and that'll be in the document. So if
Right.
this board determines that those are practical difficulties, that's what will be in there.
And I read what you're reading. I don't think it actually says, and if the structure violates an existing ordinance. I don't know, does it say that? This thing is just too big.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to take X number of feet, which we have not decided on yet, off the length, because you can't keep it like it is
Okay.
there. Nobody else wants to say this out loud, but you can't keep it like that.
Okay. Like I said, I've lived here for 25 plus years. I was unaware of any ordinance that specifically said that.
And you know what? I bet 75% of the people
Right.
who live in town would
I
agree
agree.
with you on that. Unless you have these circumstances come up, you never investigate any of that stuff.
Well-
Nobody comes here and reads ordinances all day.
What and I'm trying to be polite, what irks me is when I brought all my paperwork to the city administrator and told him exactly what I had, what I planned to do, and asked him if there was going to be any problem with it or anything like that. All he did was look at it and said, it's going to be a big one. I said, yes, it's going to be almost the full length of my driveway, minus a couple feet from the house and about 2 feet from the road. And he said, no, you shouldn't have any problem with it. Now all of a sudden, this is happening. So either, now I know I had a stroke, and I know it affected my memory. Maybe, I'm blunt. You can ask Eric when we work together. He'll tell you that I'm blunt. Maybe we need a new city administrator. Maybe he doesn't know what he's talking about.
You know,
I don't think you need to go
Yeah, I
there
don't-
with that.
that's,
If I may,
Yes.
when you would like to hear from
You want to go to the podium?
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
So Mr. Postolsky talked about a conversation that we had, and I will be honest, and I talked to him about it too. I don't remember the conversation. One of the reasons I don't is because as being a former building official and then in this job, whenever something would come my way, if it's not in my, if I'm not overseeing it, I would send it to the person that I think is responsible for it. So there was a time that I was responsible, so we would issue building permits and look at setbacks and worry about side variances and that those sort of issues. In this case, more than likely I would have said you need to talk to Mr. Bova because he's over that department, he's over those issues. I don't know what's been done in the past. I'm not sure what his interpretation is of the code, and I don't want to give a wrong interpretation. So I differ with Mr. Postolsky's description of a conversation that took place when I would say it's a big one. It obviously is a big one, but it wasn't in the context of, do I need a permit? What do I need to do to make this work? I don't feel that I was responsible for this. I don't feel that this meets the needs of a variance.
I don't think anyone on this commission thinks you are responsible for it. Him buying a giant carport, okay?
Right. But I also want to make clear that we differ on our opinions of the conversation, and that this was brought to this board because this is the first step. If something was, if there was no agreement, then this is the board that it comes to make a decision, and then it would go to circuit court after that. So I wanted to give him an opportunity to bring this to you for the issue because he does have some needs, and this board would be the ones to say yes or no.
I can't agree that he and I probably did have some big misunderstanding in taking care of this. I can agree with that. But a lot of the misunderstanding was probably on my part. But again, I feel I was left confused more than anything as to all of this. And if I can, changing the subject or not changing the subject, in the future, when someone comes in with something like this, a copy of the ordinance needs to go with somebody, or at least the number of the ordinance needs to go with somebody to look it up themselves, stating about a setback. Because you said yourself that there's a lot of people confused about setbacks here in the city, and they leave more confused than ever once they get these letters or notification of a setback.
That's not what I said. I just said that a lot of people are confused about it.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are confused about it. So, I mean, that's why I am right now. And I don't know. I would like to keep it the way it's at, but like I said,
Okay, it's looking like we're not going to go there with that. So, can you live with like 25 foot? Yes,
my buddy Chris would like to say something.
My name's Chris April. Do you want me to go to the podium?
I'm sorry.
Chris April. You want me to go over to the podium?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
We used to work together in DeSoto Police Department.
My name's Chris April, and I worked with Henry starting in 2010, and I watched him have a stroke, heart attack, everything. And I can attest to his disability and his, physical walking, hands, his memory. I probably talked to him the most as a friend, and he tells me the same story over and over and over again. So, you know, he does have memory issues. As far as this carport, yes, it is big and obnoxious. As far as the conversation, he tells me with the city manager, I can't confirm or deny that, I wasn't there. But just being here, driving in here this evening, when I walked back out, I noticed two things on the wall, that if he did visit City Hall, there's applications for permits right on the wall. So if someone said, yeah, it's a big one, whatever conversation, a clerk, they should have directed them to the Cubbies. And in the Cubbies, they have a diagram, you know, of what is required as far as the drawing. This does not include the setback off the road. It doesn't say any.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
It doesn't show a setback off the road. This is right out on the wall in the Cubbies. It shows the road, your house, your garage, your property lines, has numbers everywhere, but from the road to your house, it shows no distance. So how would Mr. Bristolski know that there's a minimum distance that he has to set back a carport? If it's not even on the official documents, it's in your cubby for somebody to apply for a permit.
But you know, the first step in any building, whether it's an accessory building, is obtaining a permit. When you obtain that permit, all that information is,
So,
But when you're applying, here's what you're looking at. It has nothing from the road. But I'm just saying, this is just something me and Mr. Bowe can look into, that, you know, you need to put some numbers in these. If you, I get taken familiar with these.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I did request if I needed a permit, and he said, no,
Yeah.
I don't.
But-
The city administrator said that, I don't need a permit.
Like I said earlier, and any employee of City Hall could have said, I don't know about permits, there's some on the wall, need to get a hold of this guy. You know, there's a failure of communication on both parts. I think we can all agree to that. But as far as, you know, I agree with you, it's big and obnoxious, needs to be cut back probably. But when you talk to 20, 25 feet or whatever, I mean, Mr. Bobo, you've been there, you've seen it. Would it be okay to take back the first court, second, the first two sections, and the third support? You'd almost have to come out and look. But I think if it stopped at the third support, that's approximately 8 feet back from where it is now.
I mean, that's where it would be okay.
Right, right. So,
But a variance would still be needed because the ordinance says it needs to be more than 8
Absolutely,
feet.
absolutely. I just
Okay,
want to,
so going to that third pole isn't gonna cut it.
well, if you look at page 8 of 10, I don't know if I can kind of come to the table so I can show a little bit.
sure.
Like here is the very end of the road. So first section, second section, and then you would cap it right here. So that'd still give him plenty of driveway. Because honestly, with Mr. Bristolski having a stroke, his driving is not the greatest. So he kind of needs a wide berth to get his truck under that.
We understand that, but
Under
that's
that
not what we're here
carport.
to talk
Right.
about.
The width
You
of the
know.
carport's 22 feet, so the width's not being affected.
Right, but just even in the front to get it in and stuff, but, I mean, Mr. Bubba, can I show you what I'm talking about?
absolutely, but I don't have a vote in this.
Okay, well, you would understand. So you'd
Come back 4, 8,
remove this section, and then put the finish cap on this one. It wouldn't go all the way back to the tree. So it'd be, say,
approximately
3/4.
32 foot. The carport would end up being approximately 32.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I mean, would that suffice for code? I mean, if you.
No. The only thing that would meet code as it exists right now is to take it back to like
20 feet?
6 foot.
Oh, okay, 6 foot.
6 foot.
It would have to be 25 foot back from those
Because
dots.
the only way to get it with it,
So what he needs
Within
is a
code is that
variance
we
of
don't
some
need a
sort
variance.
if we're going to keep the carport.
Okay.
yeah.
And I just want to cover a few things. In the week leading up to me going to Mr. Prostowski after I received the complaint, I was on vacation. The week prior to that, I did receive a phone call about a carport. I think it was Mr. Krasowski. I don't know, he didn't give a name. He asked about carports. And I will told that person what I told everyone. Structures that are 200 square foot and less, accessory structures, don't need a permit. But you still have to follow the codes and ordinances that are on the book. Now, this is larger than 200 square foot, obviously. And I don't know that was Mr. Krasowski.
I always leave my name when I call.
So it could have not been, but that's the case with a carport. Secondly, the sketch on the permit application is simply a suggestion. There is, absolutely no way to cover every ordinance and every code in a suggested sketch. It's just a suggestion, but I will look to see if I can put more information on it.
I mean, Mr. Bowe, just a side note, is I actually live in Jefferson County, and they have some very strict building codes. I mean, I've had to get permits for some other silly things, and I mean, they do say you gotta have measurement from this side, that side, every, the seventh tree down or whatever, they come up with some great, that's why it's just like, there's no setback information on the front of it.
I certainly understand that, and I guess, my answer to that is, that's a residential minor application.
Right.
So it's not
actually, both of them have the same drawing.
So you can't put anything but a house up there.
Yeah.
So there is, that's why the setbacks on the back show the 5 foot, 6 foot. Anyway, that's not what this is about.
The only reason I said take it back 12 feet, one was to give a 28-foot structure, which, I mean, in my opinion, I think that's a good compromise, but I'm just one here. But also, you now have a 12 by 22 foot structure instead of an 8 by 22 foot structure that would be usable somewhere else and stuff. And I just looking on the practical side of it and stuff, but because I don't know who said what or whatever, and that's really irrelevant to my decision and stuff. It's just whatever's practical, to make it do, and that's why I said the 12 foot, would have a usable structure, not just unusable stuff.
Okay.
Officer Pristolsky,
Yes.
can you live with cutting that carport back to 25 feet?
Well, it needs to be a 4-foot increment because
Okay.
that way they don't have to go in and change. They basically, I've done that before.
Okay, so
They take off the
that would
end
be
trim
how
and
many then?
28 feet.
28 feet. Can you live with that?
You talking 28 foot long from the first support from the garage to 28 foot lane
Yeah.
long?
Yes.
Yeah, I could do that.
I know it's not what you set out to get, but if you
Yeah.
can live with that, we can be agreeable here and everybody be done and you don't have to go to court.
Okay.
Can he put that 12 by 22 foot up in the backyard then?
You have to abide by all the same codes and ordinances.
Right.
I'll be honest with you. Both my neighbors, or one neighbor and her daughter, both got in my face yelling at me that they don't like it, which I both told them both, I don't care, they don't own my house. It's my property, get out of my face, get off my property. They can do whatever they want, I don't care. As far as putting in my backyard, like I said, I have a shed back there that I keep my lawnmower in, and a spare gas goes in my garage, so I don't have to load my gas can in my shed and all that.
I was just trying to.
Yeah, I
You could just sell it,
You had
put a
something, yeah,
notice
or
in the
sell it.
newspaper and just sell it. Somebody will buy it.
Right.
Put it on your back porch.
Yeah, I could cover my back porch with it.
That's another issue.
That's what friends are for.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Could you do me a favor, sir?
Sure.
Could you put that in writing, the dimensions and all that, so when I do get a hold of the people who will cut it and do all that?
I mean, I can't. I'm just a voting member here. That would be.
Once
Well-
the decision is made and voted on, I will supply you with that decision.
Okay, thank you.
The only thing.
I will give you my email address. You can email it to me.
I will, but I will mail you a certified copy.
Okay, that'll be fine then.
And somebody may have to come out and take a measurement on that. I don't know if it's exactly 28 feet or 28 foot 2 or.
The
Right.
variance
Yeah.
you give can be that much or more. I mean,
Right.
He doesn't have to stick to 28, he can
And I will spray
Yeah.
paint the marking on the concrete of my driveway where it would be, so we know exactly where to cut.
Okay. Yes, sir.
As far as, the 20-foot, 22 or whatever, since we're kind of all here, or, maybe Mr. Bova could explain, I mean, if we could indicate from the rear, where it's
What
closest
page is
to.
that?
It's page 8 of 10, ma'am. From the, maybe as far as, 7 supports forward or whatever, that's where it
Yeah,
needs to be
I mean, I
cut.
don't think we're,
Because-
Variance will be feet
because
from
the-
property line.
right,
Yeah,
we're not
yeah.
asking them to move the structure.
Right.
They can leave it there.
Just, and then that way we know we cut off that front
Right.
part, because it might not be 4 feet exact, it might be 4
Right.
feet.
Well, that's why I
1
mentioned
inch,
the
4 feet, 3
feet.
inch,
Right.
and then you gotta move supports and
So
everything
would it
else
be from the, how do I say this?
from the garage.
From the
forward.
curb or from the garage forward?
If a variance is given, it will be from the front property line.
Okay, that's what
And I can come out and help you.
Not
measure that.
necessarily the curb, but
Not
the
the curb.
front property
right.
line.
Not the curb.
Okay.
Okay,
But so you don't have to move the whole structure.
right.
Leave it to where it is and just take so much off of the
Because
front.
I don't want to move it closer to the house
Isn't
because,
it,
Right.
what did you say
I'll
there
lose
was
my
a,
roof
how
when the
many
next
foot
door
there?
hits.
That'll keep your costs to a
Easement for the
minimum.
front?
Wait just a
well,
second.
I'll lose my roof of my house when the next storm hits.
Right,
So,
we all might.
yeah, so, yeah.
Okay, Joan, you had something, Joan 1, you had something to say?
Well, I just wanted to be clear that it's from the property line, not the curb.
Right.
And because there is a city easement, how wide is that? 6.5?
Approximately 8 foot there.
Oh,
The
8 foot.
carport eats up about 6.5 foot of that.
Yeah, so the first 6.5 foot is not gonna be considered in the variance. The variance will be that back part. The first 6.5 is on the city property.
Okay.
Right.
Dave, I just thought about something else, because that is a subdivision. Is there any covenants in that subdivision that governs?
Not that I can find.
Okay. Because that's another whole.
I mean, there are setbacks on the original plat, but they match the cities. And I just want to reiterate, as we go into a possible motion, the applicant has to demonstrate practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship to be given a legal variance. And if that variance is given, it cannot constitute a change in the district map. It cannot impair the adequate supply of light or air to adjacent property. It cannot increase the congestion in the street, increase the public danger of fire or safety, diminish or impair established property values within the surrounding area, or in any other respect impair public health, safety, comfort, morals, or welfare.
Who interprets that?
Well, if it were to go to court, a judge.
Now, I can't say that it in no way blocks or impedes the fire hydrant in my front yard. So that's one of the reasons I agreed to live there. At my canine, I couldn't get him past the cars by the apartment I lived in.
But your neighbors could make a cause, or at least claim that it diminishes their property, the value of their property.
My neighbor right now is claiming that it blocks her view because,
Well, but it's gonna be smaller, so it won't block her view.
oh, she'll come up with a reason.
Oh, well,
Whatever.
in that
Okay.
case, just say never mind and
So-
go back in the house.
If we count, look at page 7, if you count the posts, whatever you want to call them, there are 10, so we're figuring it's 40 feet, there's 4 feet between each one. You have to take off, going with the first one, the second one, 2.5 of that has to come off anyway, right?
1/2.
Well, okay, but there are 2
Because there's
posts.
Oh, 2 posts.
2
Okay,
posts,
I got
two
you.
posts,
By post.
2.5, 2 posts and a half has to come off anyway.
To the 8-foot easement, right?
Correct.
Right.
Proper.
So now if you go back to the end where it starts at the house and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that would be 24 feet. Then 28 feet, right, would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7th post will be 28 feet. Is that correct?
8,
28.
28
7.
feet is 8 posts,
7. I mean,
7
that's wrong.
spaces.
8, including the very
Right.
first one,
1, 2,
correct.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
There's actually 11 there now.
3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that would be 24, would be, at the 8 post would be 24 feet.
If you all want to decide how long you would like to allow, I will gladly calculate the math for you.
Well,
Yeah, there's
Nobody
11
likes
posts there
swearing.
now, or 10 spaces.
Well, it's difficult.
I know,
4
it is,
feet.
it is, I'm just teasing.
right.
What did you say, Bob?
There's 11
Yeah,
posts there, or
right,
10
right.
4-foot spaces, or
Right,
roughly 40
right.
feet.
Right.
So David, if we grant a variance of 28 feet and the neighbors still object, that becomes a civil matter between them two?
Becomes civil matter between the city, I would
No,
imagine.
they would have the option, they have the option for 30 days to take it to circuit court.
Right.
There you go.
Who would they take to court?
The neighbors.
Yeah, it'd
Him,
be-
us?
they would complain that the variance was given improperly, and the judge would then have to go over the testimony or the records that we have for this case. And then the judge may decide one way or the other, or may kick it back to a variance board.
And that's how it works. Okay, thank you, Happy. Are there any other questions for Mr. Pistowski? If not, then I will entertain a motion, and you will describe the motion you're making at length.
Okay. I make a motion. I don't know that I can do it at length. My motion is, I don't know, somebody will have to do the math for the variance, would be to make the carport 24 feet. Whatever variance that equals.
So that would be another
4 feet long.
5.5 foot.
Because he has 40 feet, then you have to take away the 6.5, right?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Take away 5.5 more, and we're back to a 24-foot carport.
24-foot carport, is that right?
Oh, I'm sorry, 28.
20,
Did you want to suggest 24?
I'm suggesting 24. 18 for the truck and 6 more feet to move around.
That would be a 9.5-foot variance. And that variance would exist for this structure only.
What does that mean?
Well, I don't want anyone to think that we're giving a variance of 9.5 foot for any other future,
For anybody else?
anybody else or any other structure.
Okay, got it.
If I may ask, how long will that give me then for the carport? What's the length of the carport?
24 feet,
24 feet.
24 feet? My truck will fit.
which is 18 for the truck, and then, as I said, 6 feet for you to maneuver around.
So would your motion would be to approve a variance of 9.5 feet?
Whatever that comes to. If you say it's to approve a variance of 9.5 feet.
From the front property line.
from the front.
Does everybody
40,
understand the motion? Joan, one, Bob, everybody good with understanding it? Okay.
I understand it. I don't know if I agree with it. And I don't know what's the,
To be held up, it has to be a vote of 4.
I'm sorry.
Like who else? Oh, Kathy, that's Kathy.
Yes. There has to be a vote of 4 for this to
Go
pass.
through.
Well, can I just interject here? What is it you don't like, Bob?
Well, we kind of had a preliminary agreement with him with 28 feet. Now we're backing up to 24 feet. And
I never had that agreement.
I hate to have to hash the whole thing over again when we,
I didn't realize we had that agreement.
I didn't realize it either.
I thought it
so.
was a suggestion. But,
I think he made a comment that he would agree to cut it back to 28 feet. Did you not?
Yes.
Okay,
I think they assume you mean an agreement between everyone here.
right.
no.
So I think, did we have a neighbor that said they would not be opposed to 20 feet?
Yes.
Is that correct? So 28 is still a substantial difference from the 20. So the 24, I think, is a little bit more a compromise between the landowners that are saying 20 feet and Mr., and I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name.
Henry would be fine.
Henry. So I could be okay with the 24 feet, I believe. Because, you know, just being familiar with the subdivision, there are not a lot of things in St. Jude that do approach the street. I know you said there's planters, but there's a huge difference between a planter and a structure that comes out, you know, so many feet above the ground and covers the width of your double driveway and things like that. So I just know that that subdivision has, like over in my area where I live, there's things that are close to the front of the street, almost on the street. There's stuff farther back. All of our newer homes are farther back because we had to abide by the ordinance. But things are a little more helter-skelter, so it doesn't look as odd. But I can see in St. Jude that this structure would look really odd on the street.
Well,
I'm not saying I'm opposed to 24 feet, I just said he agreed to 28. If he's okay with 24, so am I.
well, two things, if I may interject here, two things. The expansions for the carport, they're not solid, or they're not walls, I should say. You can see through. It's not a extension of my garage.
I agree.
If I
But it
wanted
would
to,
still have a blocking effect if you're used to looking out your window and just seeing open to.
And then there's gonna be a big truck there.
Yeah, you know what,
Only for
I can understand that, so I think
Only for 18
24,
feet
since,
of it.
since you've got two neighbors opposed, one of them saying 20 is okay, so.
well, like he was saying, you said 26, I believe,
28.
or
No.
28 we agreed on,
Yeah,
You and he
agreed
agreed.
basically to 28 feet.
and we're saying 24.
She's,
Well, and we really
Right.
don't
Can we
need to
split
ask
the
his
difference
permission.
to 26?
And
I,
I thought he said,
trying to
But
get
I
as much as I
thought
said
can.
he agreed to 20.
But I thought that
anyway.
we needed to keep it in divisions of 4.
He came in
Well,
and said
that's
he would, yes.
the most practical, I
Yeah.
mean, you can, those uprights are just
Well,
bolted
that's
through the
up
roof
there.
metal.
Yeah.
Well, you're not
And
going to change it
they're
back.
staked into my, my driveway.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we can do it 24, I mean, the only thing is, like I said, when I put it up, my neighbor and her daughter, my neighbor wheeled herself over in her wheelchair
Oh,
and screamed in my face, "I don't like it, take it down." Her daughter came over, screamed in my face, "I don't like it, you need to take it down now." So I was nice enough to tell him, "Get off my property, you're trespassing, I will be more than happy to call the police and have you arrested." And she cussed me out and went back home, or over to her mother's.
okay.
And it's been constant war ever since then. Then all of a sudden, Mr. Bover came to my house with his complaint. And like I said, I got a couple different answers as
So
to
we
who
have a
called.
motion. Yes.
So, I don't know.
I'll
Shall we-
second the motion.
Okay, good.
Is there a second to
I
the
did.
motion? Oh, you second the motion? Okay. You second Joan's motion?
Yes.
Got it. Is everyone clear on that? I don't want the record to reflect any confusion. Joan, can you repeat your motion?
No. I move that a motion to approve a variance of 9.5 feet from the front property line, which I understand means that he has a 24-foot carport from the garage out to toward the street.
That's
that
my
correct?
understanding.
The length of the structure is 24 feet.
Yes, the length of the
Give or take.
structures.
Yeah.
Right, so which David had said means a 9.5-foot variance.
Yes, ma'am.
Because the
For this
6.5 is
structure.
understood.
Correct, so a
That has to go.
9.5-foot variance would mean he would need
Total of,
to take down 16 feet.
Right, okay.
Okay, are we all good with that? And we have a motion and a second? Will you take a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Kathy Waltz,
Yes.
Joan Hook,
Yes.
Joan Tro,
Yes.
Bob Donovan.
Yes.
Motion carries 401.
Okay, motion carries. You didn't get exactly what you wanted, but you got something pretty decent.
No, and to be honest, I'm surprised that my neighbor's not here.
Would this board be satisfied with giving Mr. Krasowski 60 days to complete that?
Oh, yeah.
I'm, excuse me, I'm still waiting. I gotta get a hold of the gentleman who's the intermediary for putting it up, because he's got some friends who are in the sheet metal. And I just gotta get a hold of them, what day is today, Tuesday. I'm gonna get a hold of them tomorrow, as soon as I get the measurements, because I don't have a pen with me. Your email and a phone call or a letter to tell them what we agreed on.
I will,
What is 60 days?
60 days would be till October 31st.
That sounds like a winner to me. What do you think?
I should be able to do it, or if I can't do it within the 60 days, to let you know the time frame I could get it done, and if that's okay, depending on the people I have coming to do it. Let you know when it's all set up, depending on their schedule to do it.
I mean, my direction would be 60 days.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
But I mean, if they're not available,
Then I would,
if you can give me some leeway.
a signed contract would solve that.
Okay.
I will type up the document, and you want to provide your email before the meeting, or before you leave tonight. I'll email it to you by end of day tomorrow, and then there'll be a document put in the mail tomorrow.
Okay. Okay. I'll get you my email then before you leave tonight.
I have no other business.
No other business. Does anyone else
you
have
want
any
this?
other
No,
business
I
for
want
this
this.
commission?
Dave might want it. I can give him the
Mr.
paper
Jones would
This
stop
one's mine.
talking. Does anyone else?
Excuse us, it was official business.
No official business. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a
This is,
second. All
yeah,
in
print it
favor?
off, you can recycle it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.